The best thing that could happen for the Tennessee Titans is for Shedeur Sanders to drop in the NFL draft. And it sounds like that might happen. I'll go over all the latest reports on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, we're just a couple of days away from the NFL draft, and we are starting to hear a ton of reports. I'm going to cut through the BS, look at what we've heard about the Tennessee Titans, look at how the Tennessee Titans could be impacted by these reports, and we're going to take a look at every single player the Tennessee Titans have had on an official draft visit and see if we can make any connections or establish any patterns. And of course, I got a couple of thoughts based on what I'm seeing. Before we dive into all of it, I do want to thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, now is the perfect time. It's draft week, folks. Tomorrow, we're going to take a look at the best fits for the Tennessee Titans on day 1, day 2, and day 3 at all of the big-time need positions. I'm going to have a full draft preview for you on Thursday. I'm going to be doing short content after every pick. I'm going to be going live every single night at the end of the NFL draft to tell you what to look for the next day. So much draft content coming your way. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. You're not going to beat this anywhere else, and there's a reason. This has been the #1 Tennessee Titans podcast in the world for multiple years in a row. All right, with that in mind, we're getting some rumors. Like I said, the most important thing that could happen to the Tennessee Titans in this draft is for Shedeur Sanders to slide, because what does that mean? If Shedeur Sanders starts to slide in the NFL draft, it's going to push all of the other quarterbacks back, and the more quarterbacks that are available at the beginning of day 2, the better for the Tennessee Titans, because what the Titans want to do is two things. They would like to trade back in the second round, and they would also like to get one of their top options at positions they need, which is not going to be quarterback after they take Cam Ward #1 overall. So if Shedeur Sanders slides, let's say Sanders even gets to the second round, you have the Cleveland Browns with the first pick. You have the Giants with the second pick. Let's say it goes Shedeur Sanders, and then it goes Jackson Dart. Well, then you still have options. You have Jalen Milroe still on the board. You have Tyler Shucks still on the board. You have a Will Howard still on the board. There are a ton of options that teams could be excited to move up and get. And again, we're hearing a ton of reports right now. According to Adam Schefter, who dropped a massive report on Monday morning, the New Orleans Saints are a team that is very interested in moving up in the second round to get a quarterback, maybe even into the end of the first round. For the Tennessee Titans' sake, you have to hope that that is the beginning of the second round, not the end of the first round. Now, teams like to move into the back end of the first round. You get to secure a fifth-year option on some of these players. It's a common move, but that's why it's so important that Shedeur Sanders slides. If Sanders slides past the Steelers at 21, why would the Browns or Giants trade up to go get him? Why would any of the teams from 21, maybe the Rams at 20, the Rams aren't going to use that first round pick on a quarterback. So if Shedeur Sanders can get, even if the team comes back into the back end of the first round to get Shedeur Sanders, that still leaves Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shook, Will Howard, guys like that who could still make a team want to move up. So the absolute best thing that could happen for the Tennessee Titans is for Shedeur Sanders to slide to the second round, because it opens up a wave of trade possibilities. And not only will it mean that the Titans aren't going to see guys that they like at positions they like off the board with the first couple of picks in the second round, it also means the Titans are able to get a trade down, but it also means that trade down is going to be more expensive because it's clear that teams are wanting to come up from quarterbacks. So to hear that quarterbacks are sliding in the draft as part of these reports, to hear that the Saints are a team that's interested in moving up to get a quarterback, this is all great news for the Tennessee Titans. And a part of that Adam Schefter reporting was that the Tennessee Titans are looking to acquire some additional picks in the top 100, which of course we knew that. But two other reports we got out of that drop from Adam Schefter. The Tennessee Titans did, in fact, take offers on the number 1 pick. They got a couple of offers, including an offer from the New York Giants that did, in fact, include a 3rd-round pick. Now, it's not saying that that's the only thing that it had. It's not, they were offering a 3rd-round pick to move up from 3 to 1. It wasn't just that, but that draft trade package that the Giants offered to the Tennessee Titans did include an extra 3rd-round pick, which was part of the reporting when Adam Schefter was talking about the Titans looking to get more premium picks because obviously they lost their 3rd-rounder with L'Jarius Sneed. So the fact that the Titans did get trade offers from the Browns and the Giants about moving up to number 1, what that tells me is 2 things. Number 1, those teams absolutely wanted Cam Ward. But it also tells me that the Tennessee Titans were not going to accept any regular offer to make that move to come up and get Cam Ward. They were going to need something absolutely historic, and that lines up with the report we got a week ago saying that the Tennessee Titans were looking for a historic return if they did move off number 1, and that makes sense. We're not going to move off a franchise quarterback that we like when we have the number 1 pick unless it's the greatest trade return in NFL history, right? Now, the last thing that I want to talk about with these reports before we get into the Titans' visits, there was a list of veteran players that could be traded during the draft in Schefter's report. And there were 2 Tennessee Titans on that list, Will Levis and Treylon Burks. Now listen, I think it's way more likely that the Titans trade Will Levis for a 5th or 6th round pick. Maybe it's Will Levis and a 5th to move to the 4th. Will Levis and a 4th to move to the 3rd. Something, some sort of aggregate trade deal like that. But I think it's way more likely that Will Levis gets traded. As a matter of fact, I think Will Levis absolutely does get traded, whether it be during draft day or before training camp. I think Will Levis is no longer on the Tennessee Titans by the time we get to training camp. So if you're looking at Treylon Burks, you're looking at Will Levis, to me, it's way more likely that we see a trade for Will Levis, a team that doesn't get one of those top quarterbacks early in the 2nd round, uses a day 3 pick to get Will Levis as a potential development guy and a backup. I think that makes a ton more sense than Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks has a torn ACL. Like, Brian Callahan already came out and said, he's probably not going to be ready for training camp. Maybe he's ready for the beginning of the year, but I'm sorry, I just have a hard time seeing the Tennessee Titans get any sort of value whatsoever for Treylon Burks when he's coming off an ACL after the start to the career that he's had. Like, why, if you're a team, would you give up any value whatsoever? If he was healthy, then yeah, maybe the Titans are able to extract some value. They can get a 6th round pick out of Treylon Burks, a team that just wants to give him a fresh start. Sure. But when he's hurt, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever to get rid of Treylon Burks at this time. And honestly, I don't think the Titans would get any offer on Treylon Burks, even a 7th round pick, with him being in the middle of ACL recovery. So that just doesn't line up to me. I'm sure the Titans would love to get rid of him, but I don't see a big line outside the door to take on Treylon Burks, who's probably not going to be ready for training camp with a torn ACL. But with that in mind, the Titans have completed pretty much all of their 30 visits before the draft. I'll tell you who they were with. First, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Gametime, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Gametime makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. I love Gametime because they have the best features in the industry. Of course, the last-minute deals help you save up to 60% off, but They have all-in pricing, so no surprise fees, a panoramic view from your seat, and the game time guarantee, so you know that you're getting the best price. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about some recent reports connected to the Tennessee Titans coming out on Monday and what it could mean for the Titans when we get to the draft. Now, I want to take a look at all of the players that the Tennessee Titans have had a formal 30 visit with. So the Tennessee Titans get 30 formal visits where they're able to invite a prospect to their facility. We know some of the heavy hitters that have been invited, obviously, a guy like Cam Ward and some of the top guys in the draft who the Titans were interested in. But I think that the full list of draft visits really paints a certain picture that we can take a lot from. So I want to start on the offensive side of the ball. And the Tennessee Titans obviously had the quarterbacks in. They had Cam Ward, they had Shedeur Sanders. But I find it very, very interesting that you look at the running back position. They have a guy like Caleb Johnson out of Iowa in for a visit. Cam Skattebo in for a visit out of Arizona State, who most people are probably familiar with him if they watch any kind of college football. Jordan James, the speedy physical runner out of Oregon. Like, all of those guys run with a necessary physicality that I think the Tennessee Titans will be looking for. They have Tajay Spears, who's a speed change-up back. They have Tony Pollard, who is more of a speed primary back. But Tony Pollard can't take the beating that he took last year. He's not going to make it. He barely made it last year. Can you count on Tajay Spears to stay healthy and be there all season long? I don't know. So I think it's very likely that the Titans take a running back in this draft. It's a very good running back class. But I find it interesting, especially Johnson and Skattebo, because they're guys who I think are, I know Caleb Johnson is going to go on day 2. Absolutely going to go on day 2. And maybe Skattebo will drop to the beginning of day 3, maybe. But both of those guys would probably be taken with the Titans' top 3 or 4 picks. Like, if the Titans stay at pick number 35, then 103 is going to be their 3rd pick. And if the Titans go Cam Ward, Luther Burden, and then they take, Cam Skattebo at pick 103, that would make sense. That's about the maximum, probably. It's more likely that both those guys, Johnson and Skattebo, both of them go on day 2. So it's interesting to me that the Tennessee Titans are using some of their formal visits here. 2 of their 3 running backs are guys that are probably going to go on day 2. It does make you wonder, would the Titans take a running back on day 2? They're clearly interested in guys in that range. We go to wide receiver, more names. Travis Hunter, obviously. Luther Burden, of course. Kyle Williams, name that everybody loves. Dante Thornton out of Tennessee, the 6'4" speed guy, probably a day 3 option for the Titans. Jamal Pritchett out of South Alabama is a late day 3 guy the Titans could be interested in. And Jacoby Keeney James out of Massachusetts, another late day 3, potentially undrafted free agent option. But you look at wide receiver and look at the 2 names that really stand out. Burden, Williams. Those are guys the Titans would probably take on day 2. Thornton, a guy the Titans would probably take on day 3, along with Pritchett and Keeney James. So the Titans they're inviting people who are in certain pockets. You look at tight end. Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon. He's a guy who's probably going to be there early on day 3. Would the Tennessee Titans take a tight end? Big, physical, blocking tight end like Terrence Ferguson? He's got more to his game than that. But that's what I think the Tennessee Titans need, and he would fill that role. Would the Titans take him at 103, at 120? Be interesting. And then we get to the offensive line. And again, this is where maybe the most interesting thing pops up to me when you start to look at the visits. You got Ozzie Trapillo out of Boston College. You got Charles Grant out of William & Mary. I think both of those guys are day 2 offensive tackles. I think Trapillo goes a little bit higher than Charles Grant because Grant is more of a project. Grant is an athletic guy at a low level of competition who needs to add weight and get stronger before he's ready to play at the NFL level, but has great tools to work with. Trapillo is a very consistent, like ready to play day one, super experienced guy. He may not have high-end upside, but he's a pretty good athlete. He's probably going to be a day two pick for a team that wants an experienced offensive lineman that's ready to play right away. So Trapillo and Grant are like different styles of guys. They have different profiles of what you're looking for, which makes it very interesting. But interior offensive line is what I really focus on. Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State and Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. That's interesting to me. I think both of those guys probably go in the top 50. Maybe Ratledge were to fall top 70. I would say with Ratledge. I think Ratledge is a top 75 player. But you look at Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. He's a guy who some people think might go round one. Played guard for Ohio State when Josh Simmons, the premier left tackle, who's still probably going round one, when he got hurt in the middle of Ohio State season, Donovan Jackson kicked out the left tackle, struggled a little bit right away, and then when they got on the playoff run, dominated as a left tackle. So you're talking about a guy who's excellent at guard and was dominant at left tackle for Ohio State for the playoff run. What else could you want out of a top 50 pick? So I think that Donovan Jackson is 100% absolutely going to be picked in the top 50, probably the top 40. So for the Titans to bring Donovan Jackson in and Tate Ratledge, both those guys are, again, top 75 picks at guard. The Titans are telling you with that interest, hey, we are interested in players at this position in this range. That's why over the past week, 10 days, when I've been saying, hey, I know that a lot of you guys out there are saying, take Cam Ward, and then we take wide receiver and edge, wide receiver and edge, wide receiver and edge, That's not how this works. The breaks analogy comes back again. You don't replace your breaks when they're out. You replace your breaks as soon as you hear them grinding. And people who are more responsible than I've been through most of my life with vehicles would replace their brakes even before that. You don't wait until the problem is at a critical juncture before you fix the problem. That is not a smart way to go through life. You can't procrastinate things. It's the same thing with building a roster. You don't say, hey, we're going to wait until 2026 to figure out what we're going to do at right guard. We're just going to, Kevin Zeitler's here for a year. We'll figure it out after. That's not the smart way to do it. Sometimes that's how you have to do it, but you don't want to do that. So if you can get yourself a great player like Donovan Jackson, again, for me, can't pass at 35, Donovan Jackson. I don't think the Titans feel that way. So that's why I can tell you that's how I feel, but I'm not going to tell you that's what it is because I don't think the Titans agree. But for me, if Donovan Jackson was there at 35, I don't think you should pass on him. But I do think the Titans would ultimately. So be interesting to see if they move back, though, in a trade. If the Titans were to trade back from 35, maybe to 45 or low, 46, 47 to 50. If Donovan Jackson is there, then I don't know what you're waiting on. You got to do it. Stack the offensive line, build through the trenches. That's what the Titans need to do. But let's look at the defensive side of the ball because, again, very, very interesting prospect visit list on defense as well. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? What does that mean? Well, you can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with a Fire TV Stick 4K device, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops. You can stream all your favorite shows, The Fire Stick has Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. And listen, do you really want to carry your console around everywhere you go? If you're traveling, you're moving, you could do it all with your Fire TV Stick 4K device. It's much more affordable. And again, it's way easier to travel. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We've talked about the recent reports and how they affect the Tennessee Titans. We've talked about the draft visits on the offensive side of the ball and what that might mean. Now I want to move to the defensive side of the ball, where interior defensive line continues to be a place where I am putting the microscope. Before we dive in, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen. Check out Locked On NFL Draft. It's draft week. If you haven't already subscribed to Locked On NFL Draft, you've missed out on a ton of great content, but don't worry, you can catch up. It's draft week. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On NFL Draft and make that your second listen. But looking at the defensive visits, interior defensive line, Darius Alexander, TJ Sanders, Omar Norman-Lott, Vernon Broughton, Cam Jackson. What stands out to me about a bunch of those guys is Darius Alexander out of Toledo, TJ Sanders out of South Carolina, Omar Norman-Lott out of Tennessee. All of those guys are penetrating three technique interior. Think about Jeffrey Simmons. They're guys like Jeffrey Simmons, not built like Jeffrey Simmons. Simmons is more of a power physical three technique, in my opinion, power rusher. But these guys play the same spot as Jeffrey Simmons would on a defense. In between the guard and the tackle, it's considered a three technique, and they're penetrators. When the ball is snapped, they jump through the line of scrimmage. They're great gap shooters. They're quick for interior defensive linemen. They may not be huge. All of them are about 300 pounds and about 6'3". Lott is a little longer, a little more length. But they're all very similar style of players. Now, Vernon Broughton out of Texas, a little bit bigger, but again, he is a physical guy who has some twitch to him. He's going to be able to shoot some gaps for you. So the Titans are clearly looking for pass rush help on the interior defensive line, and they're looking at the same exact position that Jeffrey Simmons plays. Now, we talked last week about potential Jeffrey Simmons trades. Would the Titans do it? I would not trade Jeffrey Simmons for a single day two pick. I think that would be a big mistake. If you think that you're going to trade Jeffrey Simmons for a day two pick and then take one of these guys and it's going to be an adequate replacement, I think that's a mistake. Okay? But the Titans have talked about building through the trenches. And if they're serious about that, if they are serious about building through the trenches, then I would not be entirely shocked. If the Titans take Cam Ward number 1, they trade back in the second round, they take an edge and one of these interior defensive linemen. Because why else would you visit with Darius Alexander, TJ Sanders, and Omar Norman-Lott, and even Vernon Broughton, who all would probably get picked between 35 and 100? Why would they do that? You know, like, we have to take the actions of what the Titans are doing here at face value. Like, if they are massively interested in interior defensive linemen, it's been interior defensive linemen and wide receivers that have had the most pop. 5 guys on the interior defensive line, 5 guys at wide receiver. Unless you want to count Travis Hunter as a wide receiver, then it's 6. But again, it's clear what the Titans are looking for. It's a great interior defensive line draft. It's a great edge draft. So if the Titans said, hey, we acquired an extra day 2 pick, we have 2 picks on day 2, we're hitting the 2 best positions in this draft class and making sure we get one of the top talents there. I know that would frustrate some people and people would be freaking out about wide receiver, but I'm not going to sit up here and be mad about it. I am very, very open-minded for what the Titans can do here in the draft. Like, the team sucks. Don't sit here and tell me they have to get a wide receiver with their second pick. Why? Why do they have to do anything? Why? Why do they have to take a wide receiver? And the answer, if you're honest, the only real answer is to win this year. If you're demanding that they take wide receiver with their second pick and then they take edge with their third pick, I don't care. Just take the highest one on the board. Then you are only focused on making the team as good as possible in 2025. When what Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker really need to be focused on is how to make the team good long term, which means that they may not draft a wide receiver with one of their first 3 picks. They may take the best player on their board at D-line and edge, at interior offensive line. And what if the Titans left the first 2 days of the draft? They had Cam Ward, they had Donovan Jackson, and they had Omar Norman Lott. I would be fired up about that. I would be hyped. But I know a lot of you guys wouldn't. So if you're somebody who is just angry at the idea of me even saying this to you right now, you better buy a tissue box for the weekend, because they are going to subvert some expectations here. I would keep much more of, if you think that the Titans are going quarterback, wide receiver, edge with their first, and they might. But if you are set on that and you have decided that you're going to be angry with them if they don't go quarterback, wide receiver, edge, or quarterback, edge, wide receiver, I'm just telling you, you better open your mind now, because you could be disappointed. But looking forward to other defensive visits outside of the interior defensive line. Edge rusher, Abdul Carter, of course. And then the only other edge rusher that the Titans met with on a 30 visit, an official 30 visit. That's different than a combine meeting or a Senior Bowl meeting or, informal virtual and blah, 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 blah. The only other edge that the Titans invited to their facility for a formal 30 visit was Femi Oladejo, who, if you recall, I picked in my mock draft yesterday. He's an edge rusher out of UCLA, former off-ball linebacker who transitioned to an edge rusher. He's got great size. He's got great upside. He's explosive. He's got powerful hands. He just needs to refine his technique. He's only been an edge rusher for a half a season or so. So I love that the Titans brought in Oladejo. I love that because I'm a big fan of Femi. But moving into the secondary, and no linebackers. Guys, I've said it. I'm going to say it again. The Titans could draft a linebacker, but it better be on day 3. Unless Jahad Campbell was there at 35. I'd do Jahad Campbell at 35. I would. That's a first-round talent. Dude's a freak. A little banged up, though. Here and there's some medical concerns there. But anyways, the Titans didn't meet with a single linebacker, and I'm happy about it because this linebacker class is buns. All right? Look, someone from this linebacker class is going to turn into a really good player. Maybe 2 of these linebackers. But the reality is, you look at previous draft classes compared to this one, this is a terrible linebacker group. It's not good. And the Titans haven't brought in any. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans don't draft a linebacker at all and just go get one in priority free agency after the draft. That's what I would do. I would not draft a linebacker at all. You only have 8 picks. I think cornerback, D-line, O-line, tight end, running back, safety are all far more important to get than linebacker in this draft. Just not. Go with Cody Barton and go with your young trio of Otis Reese, Cedric Gray, and James Williams and see what happens. All right, draft a linebacker again next year if you need to. But finally, in the secondary, Travis Hunter at cornerback, I put him in both. Quincy Riley out of Louisville. The Titans love their Louisville cornerbacks because they have press experience. They're feisty. They're options. Za Frazier is a guy with good size and physicality. Jalen Smith is more of a smaller slot type guy out of USC, but Jalen Smith has massive medical concerns with all the injuries he's had at USC. So it makes sense that the Titans probably brought him in for that. But safety is much more interesting to me. Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame is a guy who's probably going to go early on day 2. And then Andrew Makuba out of Texas. My favorite safety in the class. I'm not saying he's the best safety in the class, but he's my favorite for the value. Makuba is probably a guy who's going to go third round, I think. But I love Andrew Makuba. So the fact that the Titans brought in some of these guys that I really, really like Andrew Makuba, like Femi Oladipo, like Donovan Jackson, like Luther Burden, like Cam Scattaboo, like these are some of the guys that I like the most for the Titans in the entire class. So it's very exciting, but will they pick them? That remains to be seen. That'll be on Thursday. But the draft is approaching, so make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. I'm going to have so much content for you guys this week. But with that being said, that's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.